Well, hello and welcome to yet another episode of Gentle Bamboo Shoots. I'm once again joined in by Rakshit, the usual suspect, and we dragged in Chetan once again because he spoke of a topic called machine learning the last time and then disappeared on us. We could not let that happen. So we have brought him in again to talk a little more about machine learning. We're not talking about learning machine learning, but we're talking about machine learning in learning, in learning and development. By that I mean, so we run obviously a learning and development company called Gentle Bamboo, and these are, you know uh, just on the top of our head, brainstorm kind of discussions we have about topics that kind of inform the direction that our company is taking. And since I am privileged to be good friends with Chetan, an ML researcher at Intel, I am calling him in today and to basically give us some ideas about what role, if any, machine learning is going to play in you know learning and development, and how we as a company who is into L&D and how corporates who seek our services can make space for machine learning in their business. So welcome Chetan, welcome Rakshit. Let's begin. I think I'll straight away refer to Chetan on this one and ask him the point blank question: what is machine learning?
Hey, thanks, Avilash. Thanks for having me in. Okay. So, okay, so what's machine learning? Okay. So, and also there's this associated word of artificial intelligence. Okay. So, I'm probably a little bit very quickly, in my view, tell you what that is, and then disassociate that from the traditional definitions that you see all over the place on the web or anywhere when you heard, so that we are very clear about what we are talking about. Okay. So what's machine learning? So most people, when they hear the word machine learning, when they hear the word machine in that, they think it as computer or any other machine, and unfortunately, it's not. That's point number one. So machine in machine learning is not computer. Learning in learning is not about that computer learning to do something. It's not that. No computer can learn. Okay, there's no way a computer can learn. So machine learning does not really mean computer learning. Okay, it has nothing to do with machine learning. Okay, what is AI? Artificial intelligence? I have no idea. Okay, I have no idea. So everybody who claims to have an idea about what is artificial intelligence, they are right, but only to a certain extent. There's no real definition of it. So let's not talk about the word AI. Let's speak to machine learning. Okay, so very quickly, we see software as one of the key problem solving methodologies in any industry today, right? Everything is digitized, everything is run by computations, right? And computations means software. You can solve any business logic with programming and software development and having a right software for it. We know that. We have automated processes, we have automated business logics, we have automated operations, manufacturing, everything through software, essentially, right? So the way we write this software traditionally has been divide and conquer. Take up the problem at hand, divide it into pieces, solve that small problem each, write a software for that small problems, integrate into it. There all we have this big software which can solve me the problem. Essentially, it works well for a lot of problems, but for many problems, which let's term it as complex problems now, it doesn't work. You really do not know how to divide the problem. You really do not know how to write a logic for a problem, right? And that is where machine learning comes into picture. Machine learning is a new way of writing software, right? And that's what essentially is. So that helps you write those complex softwares. I mean, softwares for complex problems, quote unquote complex,
Mhm.
and hence you see it's being used wherever software touches.
Okay. So machine learning has got nothing to do with machines and learning. Got that part. Uh, what I also think then is that basically you are saying machine learning is software on steroids, and wherever
It's a
software solves a problem, ML will solve the same problems but better.
Yes, to some extent, yes. I mean, I'm putting it very simplistically. I'm making over generalizations, but to drive that point that it's not fancy, it's not some new technology or anything. It's way of writing software. Even more, a crude definition of ML is it's a software to write a software,
Hmm.
right?
Okay.
So because I am not able to write the software, I can't think of a logic to write the actual software. I have created another software which will write the software for me.
Right.
And that one software, this let's say meta software, which is writing the software, is an ML program.
Right. Okay. So, Rakshit, then you are almost non-technical in terms of your development skills. I
You're
am
being
some
kind when you say almost, but yeah.
Okay. I am somewhere in middle in that I can create software. I
Yeah.
can make, I think in my opinion, decent software. I can teach other people to write software. Am I machine learning then? Because I can teach others to write software. No? Okay. Back to Rakshit. What do you make of this? I can understand it midway there, what Chetan just defined. What do you make of it, Rakshit?
I honestly still have a lot of difficulty comprehending this, and despite Chetan simplifying it so much, but I have been reading enough headlines in newspapers and magazines to realize that this is something I have to now pay attention to, that the world is gravitating in this direction, and therefore corporates will also move in this direction. And if they do, then they are going to look for ways to utilize this method to develop and deliver for the learning needs of the learner that comes in what I have understood so far, and that's limited. My one big sort of takeaway seems to be that this can be used to an extent to personalize learning experiences. And if that is an application, then that's an application I'm extremely interested in, because I think that has a lot to offer for us as a training company, and also for the corporates and learners that we eventually serve. Would that be a good way to look at it, Chetan? Is that fair?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's one of the big problems to solve. Has a lot of business sense to solve in it. Okay, and extremely useful. So, and definitely among all the options available to personalize education, ML way of personalization offers the best chance of solving it at the moment. That's what I see. Okay. So that's point number one. And point number two is I have very much oversimplified the ML. Okay. Just to make sure that we don't think of it as something a computer is able to learn on its own. It does something really smart and intelligent. It does something fancy that I have never seen earlier in my life, kind of stuff. No, I'm just trying to simplify it to the point that it is not really that. It's not. I mean, whether it might they do that or not is a different matter. But if I see all that in that light, I will never be able to apply it to my problems. I got to look at it in a little more simplistic sense, little more realistic sense to see how it fits my problem. And that's the only reason I'm just oversimplifying. And we can, of course, look into what really that machine learning is in a matter of few minutes. And then once you get that, you will also understand. And we can also look at how does it help in personalization of education delivery. Yes, definitely. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So here's let's apply ML to a specific problem that I'm going to make up right now. Okay. And see if we can find an approach to it, if not solve the problem. One of the things that happens all the time in my classrooms, and to a large extent in many people's classrooms, is that uh, I ask a question and I don't get a response because people have to uh, unmute and speak up. And although Zoom has made it really simple that you can touch the space bar and you can speak, but even that much seems to be a lot of resistance, right? Is there a way for this to happen seamlessly, where the computer understands when I'm speaking to listen to me and when I'm not to mute itself. The moment I start speaking, the computer understands, unmutes, and it understands how I am speaking with purpose to the screen, compared to me turning and shouting towards somebody in the family, or asking for something. If there is noise outside, I'm telling them to please tone it down. There's lots of things I can be speaking about, but would a system be able to understand when I'm speaking with purpose towards the question asked or a discussion, and only then unmute it, and in other cases keep me muted? Is that a ML problem, Chetan?
Okay, so before we make it as an ML problem, okay, uh, let's try to see it as just as a regular problem and see if I at all have to write a software, how would I write it? Okay, let's just for a moment think about it. Okay, so let's take one specific scenario of that problem. Okay, where I have muted. Okay, I have pressed this mute button either in my app or on the computer hardware, either of the one. So let's for a moment say we are muted on the app. Okay, so now this is the situation. Now I start speaking. Now the problem given to me is I have to write a software where the software triggers an alarm on the screen when it sees that a person is speaking on mute. Let's keep that as the software that I want to write. Right. So how do I write the software? Let's just discuss. I mean, any point, like what is that first I'll be looking at? My microphone is still on. I just muted on the app. That's why I said let's mute it. So microphone is on. So it is able to get voice samples from mine, right? It's able to read. So on the audio, I am getting voice signals. And I see the app is muted. Somebody is speaking. Trigger an alarm. One basic software. No ML, nothing fancy. Just okay. Let's keep this. But we know it's obvious problems. If somebody else speaks, it is still voice.
Right.
Right? Or microphone picks up every sound, not necessarily human voice. Somebody just claps or some stuff falls over you, it just picks up that signal. So obviously, it's not a good software logic. Okay, right. So now I say that, okay, whatever audio I receive, I need to differentiate if there is human or non-human. Let's stick to that problem now. Okay, so how do I know it is human and non-human? Oh, okay, I'll put all the frequency saying, okay, human voice is 4 hertz to 4 kilohertz, non-human voice is about some other range. So let me cut down and put that frequency barrier. If frequency of the sound coming in is between 4 and 4 kilohertz, human voice. Wonderful. Okay, problem solved. No banging noises triggers that alarm. But then again, a person sitting beside me or in front of me speaks, it triggers. I'm not speaking. So again, it doesn't fully solve the problem. So now tell me, even the human voice is my voice or somebody else's voice? Now write a logic for it. So now what is that unique thing in my voice that is different from somebody else's voice? I have no idea. What is it? Is it that pitch, tone, whatever that audio terms that you can think of? What is it that is different between me and that's where the software development logic breaks. Right? We have been going by this rule approach. Okay, then this rule-based approach, and the logic stops here. Now, even if you put 1,000 people onto it, I wouldn't be able to figure out what is the difference in my voice technically that I can write a software on.
Right.
Exactly. So now this specific piece is an ML problem. I can solve it through ML techniques. I can make sure, I can tell you by writing a software through ML techniques, and that software will tell me whether it is my voice or somebody else's voice.
Right.
And this piece of problem qualifies as an ML problem and not the entirety. But for general purpose, I just say this entire problem is ML problem. But per se,
Right.
it is that small piece.
Right.
Okay, and now in continuing that question, you have recognized it is my voice. How do you recognize intent now?
Right. That's another. So now again, let's say I am speaking, but I'm not speaking to the audience, right? I'm speaking to somebody else. So I want to differentiate whether am I
I
speaking.
don't want to have tea right now. This should not have been heard because I didn't mean to speak to you. But
Right.
obviously, this was.
Correct. Exactly. So now that's another piece of logic that I got to figure out. Am I speaking to somebody else or am I speaking to the other person on the call? So that's intent. So now again, I'll think of, can I write a logic, rule-based logic for it? No, in my experience, you can't. You can write 100 rules. I'll figure out where there is head and if he's moving that side, this side, whatever. Again, that's an ML problem if you go into it. But then again, so I'm not able to find the rules of the logic, right? So that again, intent determination can be thought of to be solved through ML technique. Whether we'll achieve 100% success in that is another matter. But the fact it's not a rule-based programming logic, I can't write with it. So let me try it with ML techniques to write that software. And
am
and
I
that
thinking it in an oversimplified way when you say when rules and logic fail me, it becomes an ML problem? Is that the thing then?
that's the next best option to try.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily become an ML problem because there are limitations to how ML techniques also solve a certain range of problems. So if you have that problem out of that range, then it's not an ML problem. So
Right.
yeah, but the next best approach is to try ML problem. If traditional rule-based approach doesn't work.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Does that make sense to you, Rakshit? Did you want to say something else, Chetan, by the way? Was there a continuation to your thought?
No, I
That?
think we'll keep it to that. So I mean, I'm not going to techniques of how do you recognize my voice and
Right.
that voice. We can do that, but then again, let's see during the discussion. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we'll go much beyond the scope of this discussion, at least to get into
Right.
actual. Yeah.
Right.
But so, all right. To summarize, basically, as long as we think we can solve the problem using some logic, where determine if there is a sound or not, and then unmute. If that sound is human sound, then unmute. If it is my sound, then unmute. If I'm looking at the camera, not looking away, there are lots of other stuff. And then at one point, either way before this or around this point, is when logic and rules fail, and then
Rule-based logic fails.
qualifies
Yeah.
as a rules fail, and it qualifies as an ML problem. Will ML be able to solve it? We don't know, but at least it qualifies to become an ML problem. Did I summarize that okay?
That's right. That's very much right. Correct.
All right. Okay. So Rakshit, now, are you more at sea now, or are you coming towards the shore of understanding?
No, I'm coming towards the shore of understanding, and because you've put it this way, I remember Chetan was just making the point earlier about how uh, there are huge applications to personalization as well, and I can now start to see why that may be so. But I'm curious, Chetan, here. Let's take what Abhilash did and kind of try and do a case with this. Um, I have, hundreds of employees, thousands of employees in any organization. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, I just got a point. Abhilash, to your point, Microsoft Teams already has this mute alert, but it does not such a great job, but it does have it.
And a mute alert, yes. It
Yes.
hears a voice and says you are on mute, but does it unmute itself based on that?
There are legal issues to that, so that's one of the reasons why
Right.
it's not done. Okay.
Hmm.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry to cut you,
Okay.
Rakshit. Please go. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So,
no,
okay.
that's okay. That's cool.
Sorry.
Go on,
The
go on.
other point I was trying to make was, hopefully, if this evolves enough, it kind of becomes like that rain sensing on your vehicle's windscreen, where if the rain sensing is good enough, you never need to have a wiper button. If the darkness sensing is good enough, you never need to turn on your lights on demand. The lights will turn on by themselves when it
Right.
senses dark.
The problem,
Again, legal reasons, I understand.
I
And
understand. The problem with softwares written by an ML software is the unpredictability of it. The whole research is to make it as much predictable, but then they are not 100% predictable. You have a rule-based logic, you can predict it. You know what you give, what you get out. But the problem with ML writing its own software is the unpredictability part of it. It's not 100%. You cannot predict what it's going to throw out upfront. I mean, prediction. I mean, you can predict. Of course, you know what's this. You can just compute the numbers and figure out what it gives. There's nothing wrong in that. What I'm saying is that you can't be sure of that in this scenario it's going to do this upfront. Okay. And that's one of the reasons why you don't trust it so much.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So I am looking at a world someday then, if the legal hurdles are crossed, and if I say allow my software to take care of unmuting when I desire it to, or when I have intent to speak, I think the mute unmute button should go away then.
Yes, in theory, yes.
Yeah.
In theory, yes, because you've written the
Unless
software
I
which,
want to mute and bitch about you as you are speaking, there's no reason why there should be a mute button at all. This should all be automated.
I mean, if I can evolve to that point where I don't have a mute button, I would have already had the logic for what you're talking about. It knows that I'm bitching and I should not let down my master. So.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
I,
No mute while bitching option.
I, I,
Rakshit.
I think there's a whole other conversation to be had about the kind of words Chetan just used, the terminology of master, but we'll come to that later.
Yeah.
Chetan, to that point again of
Okay,
personalization, I want to come back to that because that was, I think, the second part
right.
of what you were wanting to discuss. Let's say if I have hundreds of learners, right? Um, when we say personalization, what are we talking about? What does this mean for uh, learning and development? Um, that if I have a particular um, person coming in, right? A particular employee coming in, and let's say they go through a series of assessments, or their work over the course of a year is sort of tracked, and in multiple ways feedback is given. Then um, is there a way to define the kind of weaknesses and blind spots that need to be addressed for them? Is there a way to define their learning needs and then make the learning specific to them, not just the concepts that they are supposed to study, but also to identify learning styles and sort of deliver eventually a program or a method of learning that fits best for them? um, is it possible to go all the way till there?
Mm, I have actually thought about this personalization education sometime back before this. I mean, in some
Mhm.
other context.
Right.
So before I construct my thoughts and then
Hmm.
reply to you, I would just like to put a question back to you,
Hmm.
Rachit. So why did you even think of personalization? Like whatever that means, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
where did you start thinking about it?
I started thinking about it for two reasons. One, I find that when we do training programs today, right, especially for fairly a junior cadre of employees, there is a training needs analysis that is conducted by the corporate, and on the basis of that need that the business brings out, about a program is recommended, and people are either nominated for that program, or it is basically offered and anyone who wants to attend can attend. I find that it is a sort of lowest common denominator kind of a program, that when you do it that way, right? So from one end of the problem is that it addresses a lowest common, addresses the lowest common denominator, and basically therefore the program that we develop also goes ahead and on a very surface level solves the problem. That's number one. The second problem then is also that, let's say I have a 3-hour program to deliver, and I have people who like to learn in very different ways. Someone who is a very visual learner, someone who listens and learns better that way, a third kind of learner who is great at doing things by themselves. And I find somehow that um, in trying to cater to all their needs, we have portions of that in the learning program that we develop, but then everybody gets a little bit of it, right? So I'm trying to understand if there is a way to ultimately deliver content in a way that is best consumed by a learner. And that doesn't have to be, someone could be learning in multiple ways, and that's okay if I can identify that and give them that and kind of ignore the rest. If you are someone who listens, and I know Abhilash, for example, uh, listens to a lot of audiobooks. I don't concentrate very well when I listen to audiobooks. My mind diverts. So if I know that, then when I'm delivering the training program, is there a way to kind of identify which is the best method and then segregate learners by that? So those are the sort of thoughts I had in mind when I
I
asked this
get it. I
question.
get it. No, perfectly right. Like, I mean, I'm not, and all these are valid thoughts and valid issues that if solved definitely makes a lot of difference. Okay. So here's my 2 cents on it. So this personalization, right? As you said, and as you absolutely put it in a right manner, that it is one is about learning style and other is about the content itself. Okay. Now we are talking of personalization essentially because we are looking at L&D at scale.
Yeah.
Okay, so and that's one of the reasons, right? Like when you go on scale, big on scale, personalization becomes important because you can't, LCD becomes the very small point to cater to this big range, and personalization is probably there. Now personalization can be specific to individuals or specific to a group of individuals.
Correct.
Right? So if you can group people and say, okay, this is the personalized delivery for you, if you group people, than to saying that to this you, it depends on the problem that we are looking at. Okay, now let's talk about content personalization. Okay, now in an ideal world, let us say I have all my content tagged with some metadata. This concept applies for basic level, applies does this. I have all this tagged somehow. Say this, I have employed people who sit, or you do, and sit and tag all your content with metadata and descriptions about that content. Okay, then it just becomes a matter of writing those rules which selects the right content based on those tags. It is for beginner, it is for somebody who has this much experience, it is somebody who learns this visually. You can write these rules and take it and then deliver that content to in certain order. Right? You can do that. But when you're doing at scale, this tagging itself is a big thing. Right? I'm just throwing out one solution to what you could do, okay, to personalize or help people. Okay. Second aspect of content delivery is positive intervention. Okay, you figure out everything, you start delivering content, but you do a real-time monitoring and a feedback of how it is going, and then change the content dynamically. All that you could do, if you have the metadata around your content. Okay, but the problem of generating this metadata itself is a big problem. Okay, and that is where ML can help. ML can help you get that metadata out of the content. Tomorrow you add a new content, the ML software that you have written gets you all the tags about it. Okay, and then once you have the tags, you have your business logic of how to give it to somebody and things like that. Okay, so much to so that I have seen examples of that being done. As simple as recommendation of videos.
Right.
On YouTube, right? You watch a video, you get recommendations. Now, how good are those recommendations is different. So there is an ML software which is matching this content to content. It is partially done purely on content and partially done using the tags written by annotators paid by Google. Let's say on YouTube. Okay, there are people who sit and write those tags. And that's one of the reasons why Twitter asks you to put a hashtag before anything, right? If it was a powerful ML software, you don't need that hash symbol. It can automatically pick out what's the topic of the tweet.
Right.
By forcing people to write that hash, they know they can write a rule to pick the topic. Right? But on the internet, you can't, everybody cannot put up their websites with hashes everywhere. So Google has to have that ML software to understand the content, or write a software which can understand the content and get you the subject. So now, like that, for your training content, and if you believe that, okay, based on certain characteristics of that individual, this content and in this order should be given, okay, you can pre-program the logic. But then when you add dynamically the content and you see that it's a lot of business, it's too costly for you to tag it every time, right? Then you employ ML software to automatically extract what metadata you want about that content and then give it to the person. Now, what are the logic to give it to the person in what order is also being solved at ML using ML techniques. And there are techniques what are called as reinforcement learning techniques. Like it's based on rewards. Like, okay, he does something, the content works for him, How do you measure what it works for him? You can have your own logic. Let's say he does not pass an exam, pass an exam. Based on how much he scores, it recommends the next topic of the content, what he or she should learn. Okay, so the problem in itself entirely is not an ML problem. There are pieces of it that is ML, and these ML solutions can be clubbed together using a rule based to make the final solution. So probably just to be a little more specific, recommendation is the way to personalize. We know that, and it's working to some extent. That's one. But most important thing is, which is not yet solved fully, is how do you monitor the progress of learning? Right? You are given him a video to watch, but has he got that? And the evaluation mechanisms are not yet fully evolved, and that is a very, very open problem. And even ML, trying to solve it in ML way is turning out to be very costly, because when I say costly, right, like let's say I put up a camera and try to study his facial expressions, whether he has got. I have to put him a what is it, heart rate sensor to see whether he's bored or stressed. All this, I mean, there are solutions, right? Like, but then that doesn't economically scale up. So it's still an open problem. Even though you have in theory ML solution, you can try with that, but there are infrastructure elements to it.
Feasibility is hard. Yeah.
Exactly.
I have a final question, but I'll defer to Abhilash for now, and then maybe later.
No, I had a final question. Okay, so my question is this then. So where we stand today, Chetan, in terms of, and I mean both as an L&D company ourselves at Gentle Bamboo, and as corporates who seek our services, do you think either or both of us should start giving attention to machine learning as a powerful force to be reckoned with in the industry?
Yes.
Now.
Yes.
On that point, before you answer, Chetan, let me just add to that question, because I have a question on the same lines. The follow-up being, or the addendum being, what should a company like Gentle Bamboo, that is currently dabbling in tech with limited resources, be doing to sort of capitalize on this field?
Yes, I think one definitely that comes to my mind is Dexter. Okay. The way you're trying to solve distractions, right, itself is one thing that you can see to have a solution through ML. Okay. So you could propose to solve, you could define the problem much more succinctly, and then see if any vendor for you can solve it through ML solutions. And since you understand ML solutions, you figure out whether he or she is, what he's suggesting is, you can evaluate the merit of that solution. Distraction. Point number 2, you have an excellent piece of software to help you make content, right? Now you want to understand whether users are comfortable in doing what they want, right? As simple as, are they, like, the question, let's say the answer you want to, as a CEO of the company, you want to understand that, okay, I have made this software to make sure the life of the people who create content is as easy as possible. Is it working? Right? And I don't want the answer through asking that person. It's not scalable approach. What is my other alternative way of figuring out what it is comfortable, or to what extent is it comfortable, and what are those hardships that he or she is facing, so that I can solve that in my next version of my software. These are some of the problems that, as Gentle Bamboo Solutions on their platforms, if they employ at the backend, will help you get more insights into what really the users of the Dexter solution, Dexter platform will want, and asking them necessarily will not give you the answers, because they can't articulate what they're thinking. Very difficult, right? So these indirect ways of figuring out that. How do you figure that out? They interact. When they interact, a lot of digital data, interaction data gets dumped. How much is the mouse movement? How much is the total run rate of your mouse that went around the software? How many times did they click? And after what point they figured out what was the answer, right? These interactive dumps that you get, right, helps you figure out, and then you can have an ML software built. You feed in all this stuff, and it'll tell you what was the rate of comfortness score, whatever. Right? And you invest in the software. I mean, you may not build it yourself, but you invest in making your vendor build the software for you. And essentially, if somebody has to do it, they can't do it rule based, because if they have to do it, they'll come to you, tell me the rules of it. You might as well write 10 lines of code for it. So it doesn't work that way. So it has to be, in my view, at the moment, at the current way of doing it, it's ML solution. And then, so if you understand what that ML solution really means, and when they propose to you what the solution they could offer to you, you can always look at the merit of that in this light, right? So investing on figuring out the comfortness with your software, investing on the frustration specifically. What is he frustrated? What is he finding? What is he finding hard to do? In fact, I remember when I first used Dexter, I called up Avilash. I called you up and asked, where is this? Why? How do I know that he's not able to find it? How many people did not find that option? Right? So these are all those smaller points that you can get with interaction data. And what is that logic? Very difficult to write on my own. Let me write an ML software for it. So that is another thing that General Bamboo can do. Third, which is more futuristic looking, little more futuristic looking. When you have video conferences, video call and video-based session trainings, facial expression detectors, like a mood score, right? I'm facing the camera, I'm talking, what's my mood? Am I interested, not interested? Am I bored, not bored? Right? This is not a solved technology yet, but essentially this is a little more futuristic. It has been people are trying to solve it from last 50 years. We don't have a product out there yet, but you can get some notion. It's not approximate. It's not random guessing. You can get to decent level of accuracies. So you can invest in that, right?
Right.
So that will help you figure out how the audience reacted to every part of your presentation.
Right.
So that's another thing that you can look at.
Right. Okay. I mean, that's actually quite a lot to actually think about. And you know what? I think we are kind of coming towards the end of the stipulated time we had for this one. We can go on forever, but dear listeners / viewer, if you're watching this and you think we have gone too far, we haven't. We have only begun to scratch the surface of what's possible with ML. Chetan, let me ask you one question. And if you think this is worthy of it, we'll come back and do a full episode on this. I have a dream. And in that dream, I want to tell Dexter, dear Dexter, today I want to do a session on critical thinking. And in that session, I want to talk about these 4 topics. I want to talk about correlations. I want to talk about, cognitive biases. I want to talk about decision making, opportunity cost, sunk costs. I want to talk about logical reasoning and stuff like that. Can you build me a presentation? And Dexter says, here we go. This is your presentation. Go for it. These are some beautiful stories I've collected from around the world. Do you think you like this? Okay, good. Here's a video that works really well with it. Do you like this concept? Here's a quiz I'll create for you. Possible? Not possible? Am I dreaming?
Possible today night.
All
And
right,
on
then.
that note, we will close.
Right. I am going to have a full
because you're
episode
gonna have that dream today night. And I'm just kidding. But it's possible tomorrow. Tomorrow in the morning. So when I say possible tomorrow in the morning, it's not the Jarvis of Iron Man that do this, do that, but it will save you from a 10-hour job to a 5-hour job.
Right. Which is big enough, right?
Very big enough. And it's a lot about discovery. You may not even know that this topic exists, even if you know that.
Right.
Right. So it's about discovery.
And I think I've already given it far too much information, right? By saying I want to cover these, I've already given it enough information. In my real dream, which is my inception dream inside dream, I'm going to say, I have a session tomorrow. Is my presentation ready? And it's like, oh, your session on critical thinking. Here it is. It contains correlation and cognitive biases. And
why not as well say that tomorrow, dear Dexter, you have a presentation tomorrow. Get me back rupees 15,000 for this 15 minutes of session that you do, and put it in my account.
Yeah. No, true. I mean, my big point being, if the training sessions are only limited by my experience, my participants will not get enough value. If the power of Dexter evolves, and I'm only using Dexter as a placeholder here, the system evolves to a point where it helps me, like you said, in discovery.
Yeah.
That these topics are going to be a great fit for this session, I think we would have crossed a whole new level of content creation, and in that we give a lot of value to
You
the
you have
consumer.
LinkedIn profiles and Facebook profiles of people. A simple web scraping today and a
Mhm.
decent software which can organize the information about your participants lets you know upfront who are attending, and it will give you those pointers and stuff about your participants that, if included in your presentations, makes more impact,
Hmm.
On
right?
that note,
For
let's not get into specifics of this one. We'll have an
right.
entire episode dedicated
Hmm.
to this. And yeah, I am not going to have that dream tonight because I'm not going to sleep. I'm so excited at this one. So yeah, it is. Just so the viewers, just so you know, we are at midnight now. Okay, it just looks like it's not, but we are at midnight, and I am not sleeping tonight. So okay. On
Yes.
that note, do either of you or both of you have a closing statement then about what we talked about today?
Yes, and thank you for having me in. It's always a privilege if somebody listens to somebody else, right? Like it's rarely a chance that you can speak and then somebody's listening for about 40 minutes. So thanks for the privilege. It was fun, and look forward to the next session.
Right. Rakshit.
I look forward to the next episode. I think we've ended on a cliffhanger.
Yes.
That-
Yes. This is going to be, ta-da, we'll solve this problem the next week, or at least we'll discuss the problem next week. We are probably not going to solve it next week. But yeah, once again, from Gentle Bamboo side, Chetan, and from mine and Rakshit's side, thank you very much for taking time out at midnight, sacrificing literally your sleep to come talk to us about how to, one, grow our business, and two, to make a big difference in the L&D landscape. And fingers crossed, someday we will actually make a dent in this universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that note, thank you, dear viewer, and I hope you like this and you can get some value out of the discussions we have had. We are going to come back with a second episode. This is Bamboo Shoots. This is me, Abhilash, saying goodbye, and Rakshit
Goodbye.
and Chit.
Bye.